Hey, it's Russ from the Infectious Groove Podcast and Vinyl Channel. What do Aerosmith, Van Halen, Extreme, and Michael Jackson have in common? All of these artists have at least one record that's never been pressed on vinyl that I would love to see. Gonna talk about it coming right up. With the vinyl resurgence, quote-unquote, over the past 10 years, seemingly everything has been either pressed on vinyl for the first time or repressed if it's been long out of print. However, I have a list of records that I cannot believe have not been repressed or even were never pressed on vinyl for the first time back when they were released. Starting with Encomium, which was a tribute album to Led Zeppelin that came out in 1995 and had a bunch of artists that were hot at the time: Four Non Blondes, Hootie and the Blowfish, Sheryl Crow, Henry Rollins Band, and so on, all doing varying degrees of tributes to Led Zeppelin. Tori Amos was involved in it as well, many other artists. I cannot believe that record has never been pressed on vinyl. It was never pressed when it came out in 1995, and it hasn't been part of the resurgence for the past 10 years. At first, I used to think that, okay, well, maybe there might be some sort of legal issue getting all of the artists to sign off on it, and that might still be the holdup. However, just this past year, there was a similar tribute record that was done to Black Sabbath around the same time called Nativity in Black that had a lot of the hot metal acts of the time in the mid-90s that came out, and that was not only pressed for Record Store Day but has since been repressed after it being a Record Store Day piece. So as of the shooting of this video, it has never been on vinyl, the Encomium tribute to Led Zeppelin, and I have heard no announcement of it ever coming to vinyl, but I'd sure love to see that change. Another one that I have is a band that most people think of as a late 80s band, early 90s band, but who had a fantastic late era album come out in 2004, and that is Tesla and their record Into the Now. A whole lot of Tesla has been put on vinyl, but some of it is only available overseas. Some of it was available in the US. A few of them have been reissued, surprisingly, over the past couple of years. Psychotic Supper, The Great Radio Controversy, Mechanical Resonance is coming out again soon, I believe on Record Store Day. But their mid-2000s quote-unquote comeback album, Into the Now, is a fantastic record. It might be my favorite or very close to my favorite Tesla album, and I understand that because of the time that it came out in the US, vinyl was completely a dead format. I understand why it never got a first pressing back then, but I'm quite surprised that the band or their record label have never looked into bringing it out on vinyl. If you want a little bit of a sample of how good the record is, you can check out songs like Caught in a Dream or the title track Into the Now. Fantastic album that I would love to see on vinyl. I've got a couple of live albums on the list, and this is one of them. Aerosmith had a fantastic live album come out in 1998 called A Little South of Sanity. Now, like all live albums, it is extremely retouched. There's a lot of overdubs, both of the vocals, the band. However, having seen Aerosmith around that era several times, I do believe it's a very, very good picture of how good Aerosmith was live in concert at that time. And it very, very well covers a lot of the eras of Aerosmith, a lot of the earlier stuff, a whole lot of what they did when they went over to Geffen. But the earlier songs that are on there, Same Old Song and Dance, Walk This Way, Back in the Saddle, they're all really, really strong versions of the songs. And even ones like Dream On, Steven Tyler actually switches back to his original vocal style to sing those songs more authentically to how they were originally, with more of a thick vocal and less of the rasp. So 1998's A Little South of Sanity from Aerosmith, I would love to see that get pressed on vinyl for the first time. Going back to bands from the 80s, maybe up to the mid-90s that were popular, that had really strong records come out later in their career, we go back to Extreme, who I've talked about on the channel before, and they had a excellent, probably my favorite studio record of theirs, come out in 2008 called Sawdads to Rock. That record is absolutely fantastic. It's extreme, firing on all cylinders. The only real difference between the band on that record and their earlier records is they did switch out the drummer. on the new album, but the new drummer that they had, Kevin Figueroa, is fantastic and does as good or better of a job than the drummer previously to that. So it is a really, really, really good album. If you haven't heard it, I strongly recommend. It's available on streaming for sure, but I would love to see that album get released on vinyl. And again, that's a band where Three Sides to Every Story has been reissued on vinyl. Of course, Pornography has been re-released on vinyl. So their biggest albums have been re-released on vinyl, but Sawdads to Rock never even got a first pressing. Again, probably because it came out in the mid-2000s when vinyl wasn't so popular. But I would love to see that finally get a first press on vinyl. You're going to have to bear with me on the next one because it's going to seem like an unorthodox choice, but there's a reason why I would love to see this on vinyl. Back in 1996, Van Halen released Best of Volume 1. Now, I realize that if you're hearing this, you're probably saying, well, all the material that's on that was previously released on vinyl because it's a best of, and most of the Van Halen catalog at that time was readily available on vinyl. However, there's the song Humans Being, which is a great Sammy Hagar-led track that, to my knowledge, has never been available on vinyl in any way, shape, or form, and it is included on the best of track listing. In addition to that, you have the two David Lee Roth tracks that he returned for before there was other debacle down the line with yet another lead singer and Sammy coming back and then Dave coming back. All of that drama aside, you do have the two great David Lee Roth tracks on that record called Can't Get This Stuff No More and Me Wise Magic, and that record is the only place to get it. So while the rest of those songs on that record, Jump, Panama, Why Can't This Be Love, When It's Love, and so on, are all readily available on other records, I would still love to see that package get re-released, if for no other reason than those three tracks that you can't really get anywhere else. So hopefully we will see a resurgence of Van Halen on vinyl somewhere along down the line, including albums that were pressed that are rare, like Balance and A Different Kind of Truth, getting repressed. But boy, would I love to see Van Halen Best of Volume 1 get its first pressing on vinyl. Going to talk about two live albums back to back that I really, really would love to see come to vinyl at some point. One is an Elvis Presley live album from 1997 called An Afternoon in the Garden. Now, this one's a little tricky because Elvis did 5 shows at Madison Square Garden in 1972 over 2 days. And one of those shows was already released very famously as an Elvis live album. We actually have a video on the channel about the pressing to buy of that one, and it's just called Elvis as Recorded at Madison Square Garden. That is an evening show from June of 1972, and as late as 1997, they released the afternoon show from the same day and appropriately titled it Elvis An Afternoon in the Garden. And it's just a great show. By and large, the set list is the same. There are a few differences here and there. He does Blue Suede Shoes in the afternoon and doesn't in the evening. But the overall way that the show is performed is just a little bit different. And for Elvis fans, we will take anything we can get, especially from that era, 70 to 72, when he was absolutely on fire live. So I'm quite surprised that that has never been released on vinyl. So hopefully Sony gets their stuff together and brings that out for us Elvis fans. Speaking of Sony and live albums, there's another one that puzzles me just a little bit, and that is Michael Jackson Live at Wembley Stadium. Now, Michael Jackson Live at Wembley Stadium was officially released digitally. They released it as part of the Bad 25 celebration back in 2012. The concert was videotaped, so they released it to DVD around the same time that they released the Bad 25 Special Edition. Now, if you got the digital version of Bad 25, you got the regular album, you got a CD full of demos, and included was the audio from Michael Jackson Live at Wembley on the Bad tour. But if you bought that set on vinyl, it came across a 3 LP set that included the Bad album and 2 LPs that made up the demos that were on the second CD in the digital version. However, they completely left out the Michael Jackson Live at Wembley Stadium concert. I would love to see that get an independent release of its own. I would have liked for it to have been included in the 2012 set. It wasn't, and it's never been on vinyl, so I would love to see an official release from Sony of that concept. Lastly, and this one I'm going to go way out on a limb for because the band themselves people might not have that big of an opinion on, but I personally love the band Warrant. The fact that their later material, their mid-90s albums, were never released on vinyl is quite a bummer. Warrant has 3 albums that were released in the 90s that most fans have never even listened to. Dog Eat Dog, Ultraphobic, and Belly to Belly. Now, Dog Eat Dog you can get on vinyl. It was never released in the US, but there are pressings from overseas that you can get. I do happen to have one, and it sounds absolutely fantastic. But they had 2 albums come out in 1995 and 1996, Ultraphobic and Belly to Belly. Neither of them have ever been on vinyl up until this point, and I have heard no plans to have them pressed by any of these labels that are now going back and looking at a lot of those mid-90s releases from the quote-unquote hair bands, a term that I hate. But no one is really looking at those 2 albums. And although Warrant changed their direction quite a bit and slid more into that alternative, sort of grungy sound for those 2 records, the main factor for me and many Warrant fans is Jani Lane's songwriting ability and his ability to turn a phrase and tell a story in such a unique way that a lot of songwriters from that era didn't have. That strength is at the forefront of those 2 Warrant albums, Ultraphobic and Belly to Belly. So I would love to see, even if it's a smaller record label, somebody get the rights to those albums and really bring out a fantastic pressing of both on vinyl so we can enjoy it. So those are just some of the out-of-the-blue choices that I had. Things that, as vast as my collection has been, and many things that I'm very, very thankful to own on vinyl, those ones are always just in the back of my mind that, oh man, I can't get that one on vinyl for whatever reason. And so I just wanted to share my list with you. I love to have the channel be as interactive as possible, so please use the comment box below. Tell me what albums there are that you are always saying, I can't believe that's never been on vinyl. Or possibly, if something on this list, I may have missed it, you know of it being on an official vinyl release, please by all means leave me that comment or link below. If you would, please make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, and if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit the thumbs up button. We thank you so much for watching. Join us every Thursday and every Saturday for a brand new vinyl video.